My sister shared my vacation house keys like they were candy, so I changed the locks and exposed her greedy game to everyone. I'm 39 now, and after years of saving and working overtime, I finally managed to buy a cozy little place in a peaceful area a few years ago. It's nothing extravagant, 2 bedrooms, a small living area, and a backyard that's perfect for morning coffee or an evening barbecue. But to me, it's everything. A place to unwind, recharge, and escape from the chaos of everyday life. My younger sister Sarah is 31 and married to Jake, who's 34. They have 3 kids under the age of 5, and honestly, I don't know how they manage financially. They're not doing great. Jake's job is unstable, and Sarah has been staying home to take care of the kids. Every time I visit her, she looks exhausted, like she hasn't slept in years. I'll admit we've never had a perfect sibling relationship, but I've always felt a certain responsibility to look out for her. Maybe it's the older sister instinct, or maybe I just felt bad seeing how stressed she was. One day we were chatting on the phone, and Sarah casually mentioned how much she wished she could take a vacation. She wasn't even asking me for anything, just venting. But I got this idea in my head: why not let her use my vacation house? It wasn't being used that week, and I figured it could be a nice break for her and her family. I mean, the house just sits there most of the time when I'm not using it, and it wouldn't cost me anything to let her stay. So, I offered. Sarah, I said, why don't you and Jake take the kids to my vacation house for a few days? It's quiet, the backyard is fenced in for the kids, and you won't have to spend a dime, just clean up before you leave. At first she was hesitant. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude or anything, she said, but I could hear the excitement creeping into her voice. Of course I'm sure, I replied. You deserve a break, and the kids will love it there. By the end of the call, she was practically glowing through the phone. She thanked me a dozen times and promised they'd take good care of the place. I handed her the keys the next day, wished her a good trip, and felt pretty good about myself. Helping family feels good, right? The week passed, and they returned from their little vacation looking more relaxed than I'd seen them in years. Sarah thanked me again, and Jake even offered to pay for a tank of gas as a token of appreciation, which I politely declined. When I checked the house later, everything seemed fine, clean, nothing broken, no red flags. I patted myself on the back for doing something nice and didn't give it another thought. That is, until a few weeks later. I was in the middle of a lazy Saturday morning when I got a call from my Aunt Karen. Now, Karen is the kind of person who's always up for a spontaneous adventure, but she rarely calls me directly. So, when her name popped up on my screen, I answered, curious. Hey Karen, what's up? I asked. Oh, not much, she said cheerfully. I just wanted to let you know I'm heading to your vacation house today. I can't thank you enough for letting me use it. I froze. Excuse me? Your vacation house? She repeated, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Sarah gave me the keys. She said it was fine, so I figured I'd take a little weekend trip. My heart started pounding. Sarah gave her the keys? I hadn't spoken to my aunt about using the house. I hadn't even given her the address. How did this happen? Karen, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. When did Sarah give you the keys? Oh, a couple of days ago, she replied. She mentioned she made an extra set after their vacation and thought it would be nice for family to have access. Isn't she sweet? Sweet? I wanted to scream. Instead, I muttered something vague about needing to check my calendar and got off the phone as quickly as I could. My head was spinning. Sarah had made copies of my keys without asking and then handed them out like she was in charge of my house. I couldn't believe it. I mean, who does that? I was furious, but more than that, I felt betrayed. I had trusted her with something important, something I worked hard for, and she had completely disrespected me. I spent the next hour pacing around my apartment, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to call Sarah immediately and demand an explanation. Another part of me wanted to drive to the vacation house, confront Karen, and take the keys back on the spot. But I decided to gather more information first. I started by calling my cousin Lisa, who's always up to date on family gossip. Hey Lisa, random question, I said. Has Sarah mentioned anything about my vacation house to you? Oh yeah, she said, like it was no big deal. She said you're super generous for letting the family use it. She even offered to give me a set of keys in case I wanted to stay sometime. I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. Did she actually give you keys? Not yet, Lisa replied. I told her I'd let her know if I ever needed them. That was the final straw. Sarah hadn't just made an extra set of keys, she was distributing them, turning my private getaway into some kind of family timeshare. The audacity was mind-blowing. By the time I hung up the phone, I was seething. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or a small mistake. This was entitlement on a level I couldn't wrap my head around. Sarah had taken my kindness and stomped all over it. Something had to be done, but I knew I needed to calm down before confronting her. That night, I lay awake in bed, replaying the situation over and over in my head. How could she think this was okay? Did she really believe she was doing me a favor by giving my house away? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. But I also realized something else. Sarah's actions said more about her than they did about me. She was greedy, entitled, and had no respect for boundaries. I decided then and there that this wasn't going to end with a simple conversation. No, Sarah needed to understand just how badly she had messed up, and I was going to make sure she never pulled a stunt like this again. The next morning, I woke up with one thought in my head. I need to confront Sarah. I couldn't let this slide. She had not only broken my trust but blatantly disrespected my boundaries. It wasn't just about the vacation house, it was about her complete lack of consideration for me and my property. I called her right after breakfast. She picked up on the second ring, cheerful as ever, like she hadn't just turned my house into a family hotel. Hey big sis, what's up? She said, sounding oblivious. Sarah, I started, keeping my voice steady, we need to talk. Why does Aunt Karen have a key to my vacation house? There was a pause, then she let out a nervous laugh. Oh, that? Yeah, I gave her a set. I thought it'd be nice for her to have a little getaway. You thought? I snapped, unable to hold back. You made a copy of my keys without asking me and then gave them to someone else? Are you serious right now? Her tone shifted instantly. Whoa, calm down. It's not that big of a deal, it's family. I figured you wouldn't mind. You figured wrong, I shot back. That house is my property, Sarah. You had no right to do that, she sighed dramatically, like I was the unreasonable one. I don't see what the problem is. It's not like we trashed the place. You've barely used it this year anyway. Why not let the family enjoy it? Because it's not a family house, I said, my voice rising. It's mine. I let you use it as a favor, not because you had any claim to it. Well, maybe if you weren't so stingy this wouldn't be an issue, she snapped back. You act like you're better than everyone else just because you own something nice. That stopped me in my tracks. Stingy? Better than everyone else? I let her use the house for free, and this was how she repaid me? You know what, Sarah? I said, my voice icy. I'm done talking about this right now. But don't think for a second this conversation is over. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking as I put my phone down. I couldn't believe the nerve of her. She not only refused to apologize but doubled down, acting like I was the one in the wrong. It was infuriating. Over the next few days, I started hearing whispers from other family members. Apparently, Sarah had wasted no time telling her side of the story, framing me as the selfish older sister who wouldn't share her fancy house with the family. I even got a text from my cousin Lisa, who said Sarah had called me greedy and controlling. It wasn't just my reputation she was messing with. It was my peace of mind. I couldn't shake the thought of how many people had access to my house without my knowledge. Who else had she given the keys to? How many random relatives might decide to pop in unannounced? I decided to get some answers. I started calling around, casually asking a few family members if Sarah had mentioned anything about the vacation house. The responses I got were worse than I expected. Oh yeah, she said you were fine with us using it whenever, one uncle told me. I haven't had a chance to go yet, but she gave me a copy of the keys just in case. She told me to let her know if I wanted to stay there, another cousin said. I didn't think to ask you because she made it sound like it was her idea. By the time I finished my calls, I was boiling with rage. Sarah hadn't just given away 1 or 2 sets of keys, she had turned my vacation house into a community timeshare. She had essentially stripped me of any control over my own property. And for what? To play the role of the generous sister? I needed to put a stop to this. But I also needed to make sure she learned her lesson. A simple confrontation wasn't going to cut it. If she wanted to act entitled, I was going to make sure it blew up in her face. The first step was taking back control of the house, I drove out there the next day and changed all the locks. It wasn't just about keeping Sarah and her key-wielding network out. It was about reclaiming my space. I wanted to feel safe in my own property again. As I stood in the driveway, holding the old locks in my hands, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. This was the first step toward fixing the mess Sarah had created, but it wasn't enough. She needed to face the consequences of her actions, and I was going to make sure of it. That night, I started planning. If Sarah was so comfortable stepping over boundaries, I'd use her greed and entitlement against her. I was done playing the nice older sister. It was time for her to see just how badly she had messed up, and to make sure everyone else saw it too. Changing the locks felt like a victory, but it wasn't enough. Sarah had humiliated me, disrespected my property, and tried to turn the family against me. I knew I couldn't let it end with just taking back control of the house. I needed to make her see how far she had crossed the line, and I needed everyone else to see it too. The first step was confronting her directly again. This time, I wasn't going to hold back. I called Sarah, and she picked up almost immediately. "Hey," she said, her tone already defensive. "Are you still mad about the stupid keys?" "Mad doesn't even cover it," I said, my voice steady but cold. "Sarah, I've changed the locks. No one is getting into that house without my permission ever again." There was a long pause on the other end, then she laughed, but it was forced. "You really went and changed the locks? Don't you think that's a little extreme?" "Not even a little," I shot back. "You made copies of my keys without asking, handed them out to who knows how many people, and turned my vacation house into a free-for-all. You violated my trust, Sarah. Do you even realize how wrong that is?" "Violated your trust?" she repeated mockingly. "Oh, come on. You're making it sound like I robbed you or something. It's just a house and it's not like anyone did anything to it." "You don't get it," I said, trying to keep my temper in check. "It's not your house. You don't get to decide who stays there. I let you use it out of kindness, and this is how you repay me?" "By treating it like it's yours to give away," Sarah huffed. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not like I charged anyone to stay there. I was just trying to help the family." "Help the family?" I snapped. "You mean by going behind my back and acting like you own something you don't? Do you have any idea how many people have called me, assuming they can just waltz into my house because you gave them a key?" Her tone shifted, defensive and sharp. "Well, maybe if you weren't so selfish, this wouldn't even be an issue. It's not like you're using the house all the time. What's the harm in letting family enjoy it?" That was it. I had tried to reason with her, but she wasn't listening. Her entitlement was off the charts, and I realized she didn't feel the slightest bit guilty for what she'd done. If anything, she thought I was the problem. "You know what, Sarah?" I said, my voice calm and icy. "I've had enough of this conversation. You crossed a line, and you're going to face the consequences." "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, but I didn't answer. I hung up and took a deep breath. It was time to move on to the next phase of my plan. Later that evening, I started setting the trap. If Sarah wanted to act like the queen of generosity, I was going to give her a chance to dig herself even deeper. I sent her a text. "Hey, I've been thinking about what you said. And maybe you're right. Maybe I have been too protective of the vacation house. Let's talk tomorrow. I have an idea I think you'll like." She replied almost immediately. "Finally. Glad you're coming around. Let me know when you want to chat." The next day we met at a coffee shop. I pretended to be apologetic, telling her I realized I might have overreacted, and that I wanted to make things right. "I've been thinking," I said, "and maybe the house could be more of a family resource. But we'd need some rules." She perked up at that. "What kind of rules?" "Well," I said, leaning in like I was sharing a big secret, "I was thinking about offering a family rental program. I'd charge a small deposit, just enough to cover cleaning fees and maintenance, so everyone can use it without any issues. You'd be the first to get access, of course, since you've already used it." Her eyes lit up. "Really? That's so generous of you." "But there's one catch," I said. "If I do this, I need to know everyone will follow the rules. I can't have people making copies of the keys again, or letting just anyone stay there. So to show you're serious, I'd need a small commitment up front. Say $1,000. Sarah hesitated for a moment, but then her greed got the better of her. $1,000? That's it? "That's it," I said. "It's just to show good faith. Once we set up the program, you'll be reimbursed. and you can use the house whenever it's available." She grinned. "Deal." I left that meeting feeling smug. I knew Sarah couldn't resist the idea of having first dibs on the house, and I knew she'd fall for the family rental scheme without a second thought. Now, all I had to do was wait for her to take the bait. Sure enough, a few days later, Sarah sent me the deposit. I let it sit in my account, untouched, while she started bragging to everyone in the family about her special deal. She made it sound like she was the mastermind behind the whole thing, telling people how she had talked me into sharing the house and secured exclusive access for herself. She even hinted that she could help others get in on the deal for a price, of course. I didn't stop her. The more she bragged, the better the payoff would be. By the time she finished spinning her story, the family was buzzing about how generous Sarah was and how I'd finally come around to her way of thinking. Little did they know, the real fireworks were about to begin. Sarah had no idea what was coming. She was riding high on her little ego trip, bragging to the family about how she convinced me to share the vacation house. It was nauseating, but I let her have her moment. After all, the higher she climbed, the harder she'd fall. Meanwhile, I started laying the groundwork for the grand reveal. I reached out to a few key family members who were closest to Sarah, the ones who'd believe her nonsense without a second thought. I casually mentioned that I was re-evaluating how the vacation house was used, hinting that Sarah's suggestions had pushed me to make some big changes. Of course, I didn't mention the rental program she thought she'd masterminded. I just let them assume she was helping me make the house more accessible. By the time I was done planting the seeds, Sarah had unknowingly set herself up as the face of the vacation house drama. She loved the attention and leaned into it, even telling people that she'd negotiated the rules so the house could stay in the family. It was almost impressive how far she was willing to go to make herself look good. Almost. Then came the family barbecue, the perfect stage for the big reveal. The day of the barbecue, I arrived early to help set up. Sarah was already there, surrounded by a few cousins, holding court like she was royalty. She shot me a smug smile when I walked in, clearly convinced she'd won. As the afternoon went on, I waited for the right moment. It came after lunch, when most of the family was gathered around the picnic tables, chatting and laughing. I stood up, holding a glass of lemonade, and tapped my fork against it to get everyone's attention. "Hey everyone," I said, smiling. "I just wanted to take a moment to thank Sarah for everything she's done to help with the vacation house situation." Sarah's face lit up. She clearly thought I was about to shower her with praise. "You've really gone above and beyond," I continued. "You've given out keys, made up your own rules, and even created this amazing family rental program idea." There were a few confused murmurs from the crowd. Someone asked, "Rental program? Oh, you didn't know?" I said, feigning surprise. "Sarah's been telling everyone about how she convinced me to let the family rent the house. She even sent me a $1,000 deposit to secure first dibs." Now, the murmurs turned to whispers, and Sarah's smile started to falter. "Well, it was just a suggestion," she stammered. "Really?" "Because it seemed pretty official," I said, pulling out my phone. "Here's the deposit she sent me." I held up the payment receipt for everyone to see. Sarah's face turned bright red. "But the thing is," I continued, "there's no rental program, there never was. I just wanted to see how far Sarah would go to take control of something that doesn't belong to her. Turns out, $1,000 is the price of her dignity." The crowd went silent. Then the questions started flying. "She gave out keys without asking you? She paid $1,000 for nothing? What was she even thinking?" Sarah tried to defend herself, but it was useless. The more she talked, the worse she sounded. "I was just trying to help," she insisted. "I thought it was a good idea." "Help?" I said, my voice sharp. "You mean by disrespecting my property, turning the family against me, and acting like you're in charge? That's not helping, Sarah. That's entitlement." By now she was practically shrinking in her seat, but I wasn't done. "And just so everyone knows," I added, turning to the rest of the family, "the vacation house is mine. It's not a family house, it's not a timeshare, and it's definitely not available for rent. If anyone wants to stay there, they can ask me directly. But as of now, no one who had an unauthorized key will ever step foot in it again." With that, I sat down and took a sip of my lemonade, letting the weight of my words sink in. The fallout was glorious. Sarah became the laughingstock of the family almost overnight. People started calling her Key Queen and joking about how she should start a property management business. One uncle even asked her, "So, do I get a refund on that rental program you were running?" She avoided me for the rest of the barbecue and left early, muttering something about not feeling well. But the damage was done. Her reputation was in tatters, and no one took her seriously anymore. As for the $1,000 deposit, I donated it to a local charity and sent her a receipt with a note that said, "Thanks for your contribution. The community appreciates your generosity." After the barbecue, Sarah went radio silent. No calls, no texts, not even the passive-aggressive Facebook posts she was known for. Honestly, I thought she'd take a few weeks to cool off and then try to spin the situation in her favor again. But this time, she had really outdone herself. The family wasn't just annoyed with her, they were laughing at her. And in our family, once you become the butt of the joke, it's hard to come back from it. The fallout from her little rental program fiasco was incredible. A few days after the barbecue, my cousin Lisa called me, practically crying with laughter. "Did you hear what Uncle Tom said?" she asked, barely able to get the words out. "He said he was thinking about hiring Sarah to manage his garage keys since she's clearly got a knack for it." I couldn't help but laugh. Apparently the jokes had been flying all week. Every family group chat had turned into a roast session, with Sarah as the main course. Someone even made a meme of her holding a giant key, captioned, "When you can't afford property, just take over someone else's." It didn't take long for Sarah to catch wind of it. She tried to play the victim, posting a long rant on Facebook about how families should support each other, and nobody appreciates how much she sacrifices. But the comments were brutal. One cousin replied, "You sacrificed $1,000 for nothing. That's on you, sis." Another added, "Maybe if you'd asked permission instead of acting like the house was yours, this wouldn't have happened." She eventually deleted the post, but by then, the damage was done. No one was buying her excuses, and she knew it. Meanwhile, I decided to add one final layer to the humiliation. I created a group email for the extended family and sent out a message titled Vacation House Update. It read, "Hi everyone. I just wanted to clear up any confusion about the vacation house. To avoid any future misunderstandings, I've implemented some new rules. The house is privately owned and maintained by me. It is not available for general family use. If you'd like to stay there, you'll need to request permission directly from me. No exceptions. Any unauthorized use of the house will result in permanent loss of access. Special thanks to Sarah for reminding me how important it is to set boundaries and maintain control over my property. Best, your name." The sarcasm wasn't lost on anyone. Within hours my inbox was flooded with replies. Most were supportive, people saying they understood and respected my decision. A few couldn't resist poking fun at Sarah. One email read, "Guess I'll have to return the invisible keys Sarah gave me. Thanks for the heads up." Sarah, of course, was livid. She called me the day after the email went out, furious. "How could you do this to me?" she demanded. "You made me look like a fool." "You made yourself look like a fool, Sarah," I said calmly. "I just gave everyone the facts. If you're embarrassed, maybe you should think about why." "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "You've ruined my reputation." "Your reputation?" I shot back. "You mean the one where you take other people's property and act like it's yours? I think you did a fine job ruining that on your own." She hung up on me, but I didn't care. For the first time in weeks, I felt completely at peace. The house was mine again, and Sarah had been put firmly in her place. The jokes didn't stop, though. Months later, at a family holiday party, someone brought up the vacation house again. "So is Sarah still running her rental business?" one cousin quipped, grinning. Sarah glared at him but didn't say a word. She'd learned the hard way that digging herself deeper only made things worse. The family may have forgiven her over time, but they never forgot. Every now and then someone would slip in a subtle jab, and she'd just sit there silently stewing. As for me, I don't think I've ever enjoyed a barbecue, holiday party, or casual family gathering more. Watching Sarah squirm every time someone mentioned the house was the sweetest kind of revenge. And the best part? I still own the house. The locks are secure, and no one even thinks about asking for a copy of the keys anymore. Lesson learned: never mess with someone's generosity. Sometimes, the people who give the most have the sharpest claws when you cross the line.